Hormuz once the war ends. Well, let's now speak to Marco Forgione, who is Director General of the Chartered Institute of Export and International Trade. Marco, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Ayesha.
What realistic options are on the table here for Macron and Starmer today?
Well, there are four areas that are going to be reviewed and discussed. The first is a military response. We have to bear in mind, this is once it is safe and there is no longer an ongoing attacks in Iran or across the Strait of Hormuz. So first is a military support to ensure the safety and security of vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The second is economic and diplomatic, to look at how we ensure that Iran complies with the requirements of a free flow of trade through the Strait of Hormuz. The third is humanitarian. There are about 20,000 seafarers and hundreds of vessels that are trapped in the Gulf. And so dealing with that is an urgent element. And then the fourth is a collaboration between governments and businesses, so the wider industry, and how industry and governments can work together to quickly return trade flows to where they need to be.
And what of all those options, what do you think is the most achievable?
It depended on all of them. All four are intimately interlinked, and they're meeting next week, which has already been scheduled to go through the military planning at the permanent joint HQ in Northwood, where all those elements will be brought forward and discussed, and the ramifications and the crossovers between each of them. France will be leading on the military, the UK will be leading on the diplomatic and economic, but all four of those elements have to work together if we are going to get trade flows back to where they need to be. All of it, though, is predicated on the need for there to be a safe and secure transit through the Strait of Hormuz.
And of course, Donald Trump is obviously, very much doing his own thing. I mean, America is not taking part in these talks today. Is that correct?
America isn't, and neither from what we hear is China, although other key actors such as India apparently are going to be participating, as well as nations like Australia, South Korea, Japan. Then in the EU, you've got Italy, France, of course, and Germany, Norway, Canada. So this is a very broad base of nations coming together.
Are there any representatives from Iran?
No, from what we hear, there won't be representatives from Iran. The requirement is that they need to comply with terms both of the ceasefire and then a move towards a permanent resolution. And what has also been clear, because there's been talk, Ayesha, as you know, about the imposition of tolls by Iran for ships, vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, that will not be accepted.
And in terms of other involvement from the Gulf states, how important will that be?
Absolutely. And UAE is purported to be participating in the session today. And we look, actually, the reality is we've got to deal with today, we've got to deal with the problems that exist today. We've got to get a short and medium-term solution to get trade flows flowing through Strait of Hormuz for the good of the global economy. But I think what we're going to see now is a shift in global supply chains. There's going to be a raft of investments which will make the transit through the Strait of Hormuz less of a critical pinch point for the whole of the global economy. So there'll be infrastructure investments, multimodal approaches to bypass the Strait of Hormuz and to allow trade to flow. So you can see investments by Saudi Arabia and by the UAE that will bypass the Strait of Hormuz in the midterm.
OK, well, look, Marco, good to speak with you. Thank you very much for your time. That's Marco Forgione, who's Director General of the Chartered Institute of Export and International